Buying a horse is a real big decision, and I know you've all looked on the internet, you know what kind of horse you'd like, you've had a lot of lessons. Horses and humans have had relationships for thousands of years. You know, I have a buddy over at the other ranch just east of us, Bob. I know a lot of you know Bob, and he's the maintenance man over there, but he loves horses. Now Bob is working hard over there, but in his spare time, he's always with the herd. Bob's also a very Christian man, and the other day, he lost his Bible. He'd been out working some fences, and that night he went to get it, couldn't find it. Everybody looked high and low. It was a special Bible that Bob's parents had given him when he was a teenager. Finally, nobody could find the Bible. About a week later, some of the wranglers were bringing a herd of horses down that had been up in one of the far pastures where Bob had been doing fences about a week ago. He was holding the gate, and as the horses were coming into the corral, he looked up and he saw a big paint named Liberty. Now this big paint had something in his mouth. And as he got closer, Bob realized it was his Bible. When all the horses were secure in the corral, Bob walked in and over to Liberty, scratched him on the head between the ears, and Liberty put the Bible in his hands. Bob looked up to the heavens and said, "It's a miracle." And Liberty said, "No, it isn't, Bob. Your name was written in the front cover of that book." Horses and humans, they've been together, like I said, for thousands of years. And as you go on this journey to buy your first horse, you need to consider some very serious points. And tonight I'm going to talk about 3 points. Number 1, the financial commitment that owning a horse involves. Number 2 is the time commitment. And number 3, there's a psychological and emotional commitment that you'll have with this new friend. Now I put together a little list of everything, and you'll find some back on the refreshment table. After we get through with our little discussion here, you can look around the barn, pick up one of these papers. The financial commitment is huge when you buy a horse. Most people ask me, how much does a good horse cost? I look at them and I say, your question should be, how much does it cost to keep a good horse? Now I'm going to run through a few of these figures for you. After you buy that horse, and I know none of you have horse property, you're going to have to find a boarding facility. Around here, $300 to $550 a month for that boarding facility, for the room and board for that horse. A lot of horses, especially you kids that are going to get a show horse, need extra supplements. And if you buy an older horse, they do need special feeds. That can run you anywhere from $20 to $200 extra a month. You want to establish a good relationship with a vet. We have a number of good vets that come out to the barn. The vet call is $65 to $80 for the vet to drive out. And then you're going to pay for the vaccines, the wormer, the sheath cleaning, whatever the vet needs to do. Also, horses are notoriously curious. I don't believe I know a horse that hasn't had an x-ray or stitches or wound care from a vet. You need to keep a couple $100 in the bank for an emergency vet visit. Also, you'll need to establish a relationship with a good farrier. There's a saying in the horse world, no feet, no horse. You all know that. A farrier visit can cost you anywhere from $50 for a trim to $180 if they need orthopedic shoes. And you need to get them checked, depending on how fast their hooves grow, about every 6 to 8 weeks. You want to make a good relationship with your trainer. Most of you have been using trainers here at the barn. You know what that costs. You will need to continue your lessons. All horses and riders need a tune-up every now and again. And you kids that are going to be showing, you'll want to stay with your trainer to help you through the initial shows and to get you started on your way with either your hunter jumpers or your dressage horses. Equine dentistry is so important. No teeth, no eating. And horses are eating machines. Our equine dentists are wonderful professionals. The younger horses, they need to be seen about once a year. They float the teeth, and it costs anywhere from $100 to $150. An older horse or a horse that has any dental issues, you're looking at maybe 2 to 4 times a year to see your equine dentist. You need to consider the tack and the gear. You need a good saddle that fits your horse, and I know you've all been looking around. There's a lot of used saddles out there, but if that saddle doesn't fit the horse and fit you, you don't want it, even though it might be a good deal. Now, you may be able to pick up a good saddle for a few $100s, but if you need to have a good, proper fit, if your horse has any problems with the withers, you'll need to go to a saddle professional, and you'll be spending anywhere from about $700 to $1,200 for that saddle. Then you need some other tack for your horse, and you all know what that costs because I know you go to the tack stores, I see you there. Riding clothes, if you're a pleasure rider, good pair of boots is essential, your blue jeans, your cotton shirts, your hat, and your gloves. You can get by pretty cheap with that, and a lot of people like that because they can give you Christmas presents. But you kids now that are going into the show ring, you'll want to look the part. The judges look at you as well as that horse. We have a dressage gal here, I think you all know Stephanie. She has spent over $1,000 on one of her outfits for the show ring. The next item I want to talk about is the time commitment. Once you purchase that horse, it's 24/7. You've all come out to the barn for lessons, you've come out on the weekends, you spend some time here, but once that horse ownership is yours, you'll want to see that horse almost every day. Lots of our horses need their feet cared for daily. You might can get by with 4 or 5 times a week, but you need to plan on daily if your horse has some special needs. When you come out to the barn, grooming will take you about 30 minutes, depending on how mucky and muddy it is and how much you need to brush that horse down. You'll want to do some groundwork with your own horse. Now, we groundwork all of our lesson horses, so when you come out for your lesson, that horse is ready to go. Once you buy it, it's your responsibility. And 30 minutes with your horse in the arena is not too much time to do groundwork. And up to an hour before you ride, sometimes the horse needs that to get their mind going, get out of the turnout, and onto whatever lesson or trail ride you're going to do. You all know how much time you want to spend riding. You can be out here anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. And some of our riders that like the longer trails will pack a lunch and stay out most of the day. Like I said, you want to continue with your lessons, and that's another time commitment. Also, your horse is a living, breathing thing. They get sick just like our kids do. They have some problems, sometimes need wound care, and you need to make the time commitment that if your horse needs you, you'll be there in the middle of the night. You'll be there twice a day to take care of a bump or a bruise that it has. And it's a big commitment, so you need to consider the time element of buying a horse. And that third issue I want to talk to you about, real serious issue, is the emotional, psychological commitment that you'll be making. All of you love horses, that's why you're considering buying a horse. But once you own that horse, that commitment continues on and on, 24/7, like I said. In a recent survey, 67% of new horse owners said the horse was a member of their family. When you go on vacation, you're going to have somebody take care of that horse. It's going to cost you a little bit more of your time and your money. Horses, they're wonderful, wonderful creatures. Horses and humans have been together for eons. I'm going to let you go have some refreshments now. No question is too delicate to ask me. Horse ownership, you need to be responsible. I want to leave you with one thing here from this little short meeting that we've had. And I'm going to ask you a question. Does anyone know how to make an easy $1 million? We've been talking about dollars and cents. an easy $1 million. Let me tell you, you start with $2 million in the bank and you buy a horse.